How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. And now I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Saturday, October the 12th, 2024.
You know who you are? Steeven is my name. Even Steeven.
Will you say something, Steeven?
Steeven or Else Media.
Howdy, folks. You're listening to the Superman Super Show episode 70. Joe Gatson, Racketeer.
Howdy and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm one host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left, which is this way. Oh, pointing at the Superman there, is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr. Steeven, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
I don't know why I said it that way.
Hey, it's, you're what is it? You're doing this? You're coming up with this as you go along or something?
That's right.
Like that?
I'm making it up as I go along.
All right. There we go. Okay. So I am really excited musically right now because, for the first time in 5 years, my favorite group is getting ready to come out with another album. Now the group is Spyro Gyra.
Oh, wow.
Steeven, are you familiar with Spyro Gyra?
I've heard the name, and I bet if you've told me some of their hits, I'd know them, but I've never owned any of their music.
Okay. Okay. If you want to hear their hits, all you have to do is turn on the Weather Channel.
Okay.
or go to a large department store and ride an elevator. And I say that because, they're a fusion group, and a lot of their earlier music, they don't do it too much now, but a lot of their earlier music has been converted to Muzak.
Oh, okay.
And so, a lot of the songs that you will hear for those places that still do Muzak, I think a lot of them maybe have even gone to streaming music and stuff like that off of Spotify or whatever. But back in the Muzak days, Spyro Gyra hits were everywhere. They've been around since 1977, so they have a lot of fusion-y jazz hits. Their previous album was called Vinyl Tap. A little play on words there. Came out in 2019. Now this is an anniversary year, so they're getting ready to release an album entitled Jubilee that is going to be a double CD album, which in vinyl, I don't know how that equates. But it's a double CD nonetheless. And, they are picking their favorite hits from 1977 through 1987, which it's always cool for these groups that have been around a long, long time because they always have a lot of crap to pull from when they compile. So that's supposed to be out early next year. So I'm
Cool.
really looking forward to that. Like I say, no new stuff, which this isn't going to be new, but maybe they'll throw in one or two new songs or songs that they haven't released yet anyways. I don't know how new they might be, but they haven't had an album out at all since 2019. So 5 years is a long time to just recycle the stuff that you've heard before. So maybe there'll be something new. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Any musical highlights for you currently?
I've been listening to a lot of the Beastie Boys lately, specifically their 1992 album, Check Your Head. You know, of course, when the first album came out before everybody kind of realized it was a joke. I think I was in junior high really enjoyed it. It wasn't until years later that I owned their second album, Paul's Boutique. But when Check Your Head came out in 92, I bought that tape and I listened to it all the time. It's one of those, it's on my list, a short list of albums that I consider to be perfect albums because I can listen to it from song one to the end without feeling any need to skip through anything.
Now, real quick, you threw out a word there that some of the young folks might not be familiar with. Should we take a moment and explain to people what a tape is?
Tape cassette, yeah. They're about
cassette tape, yeah.
Billy D just arrived. Hey, yo, what's up, Billy D? Tape cassettes were about this big.
And you always, if you used cassette tapes, you always needed to have a pencil with you. And those folks that are familiar with cassette tapes absolutely know why you needed a pencil.
Beastie Boys, yes, Billy, Beastie Boys are the ace, but Check Your Head. Yeah. For some reason, it's like, I have a playlist that I've created that's Beastie Boys chronologically, and it's every song off every album.
Oh, wow.
From the top of License to Ill to the last song on, Hot Sauce Committee Part 2. Billy seen them live. I've never got a chance to see Beastie Boys live. And if I would have had the chance, it would have been when they were probably touring during their further Check the Head album, because they did a lot of clubs at that point, because that was kind of their comeback. Their second album, which is looked at as just a freaking classic now, was a huge flop. And Check Your Head though, I can't listen to it and not just remember. I just feel like I'm back in the 90s when I listen to that.
Yep.
Beyond that, I was recently introduced to a band by an old friend of mine. I think I was in a really bad mood and we were talking on Facebook, and I was just talking about how crap things can be sometimes. And he was like, yeah, here, check this out. You'll probably like this. And it was a song called We Got the Moves by a band called Electric Callboy. And they are like just a freaking heavy hardcore / dance pop club beats type of group. And they're from Germany. Billy saw the Beastie Boys in FDA Park in Philly in 94. So that would have been after Ill Communication, or would that have been while they were touring off at Ill Communication, I'm assuming. But yeah, Electric Callboy, I've been getting into them. And then there's this group called Lawrence, made up of
he saw him at Lollapalooza. Cool.
Oh, Lollapalooza. Never been to a Lollapalooza, which seems really weird for me, because those were happening back in my heyday when I went to a lot of concerts. That I don't know why I never went to a Lollapalooza. But yeah, there's a band, a pair of siblings, a brother and a sister, and their last name is Lawrence. And so they have a band called Lawrence, and they're youngsters, but I really dig them. And two of their songs that kind of got me hooked on them, I ran into them on like Instagram. They call them acoustic-ish versions of these two songs. And they just yesterday found out that they put out an acoustic-ish album with both of those songs on them. And so I'm really excited about that, because I was telling my wife, I said, it gives me hope for the future. It's Billy D hearsay. Smashing Pumpkins was there. George Clinton and Bootsy Collins.
Nice.
But told my wife, I said, it gives me hope for the future to know that not only are there still, because this band, Lawrence, they are just hugely talented. And you'd probably call them pop, but they're kind of like a pop soul type of vibe. And I told her, I said, seeing youngsters, these young people these days, not only still playing instruments and being so talented, but making good music makes me feel good about the future.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what and then of course,
yes,
my third favorite band, or my second favorite band of all time, Kiss.
And, I actually can make a connection, to Kiss, because, Terry and I have another podcast, and for that podcast, we watch Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. This week, as we are recording this, Monday and Tuesday, they showed 2 episodes of the show because they didn't have one the previous week. The second episode was focused on hair metal bands. Nice. That was the music for the dances. The guest judge for the hair metal bands episode was Gene Simmons.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. He's a media whore.
So there he was He was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But so there's a quick connection to Kiss. Yeah.
Gene, his book was the first of their books that I read and did not like. Gene used to be one of my favorites. And then I read his book and I'm like, he's kind of an asshole. It's like most of the book is just about the random women that you slept with. Not like stars, not like, and then, slept, cause he dated Diana Ross for a while and stuff like that. But just like, then there was this girl in Iowa after, and I don't really care, Gene. I really don't care about that. I want to know about the band. So
he's not, as far as personalities go, he's not the classiest personality,
but he embraces it. I mean, he is who he is. Billy D, Tribe Called Quest. Oh my God. That was also, back in the day when I was watching a lot of Yo MTV Raps. I remember Tribe Called Quest had the song Scenario that I was really into, but I really didn't start really getting into Tribe Called Quest, until like the last couple of years. This is a shame. Should have been listening to them a lot back in the day. And that was Music Corner with Ed and Steeven.
All right. That is our musical banter for this episode. So now let's turn our focus to Superman, because today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is the second Superman story to appear in Superman number 9, written for us by Jerry Siegel and arted for us by Paul Cassidy. Now, Superman number 9 has a cover date of March-April 1941 with an on-sale date of January 3rd, 1941. And that information comes to us from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Here we go.
That's a Tribe Called Quest reference. And to counter Billy says, "Here we go, yo," which is from Scenario. To counter Billy, I'll just ask, can I kick it?
Okay, the show notes slightly confused.
Oh, what did I do?
Now we have Superman 9 has it. Writer Jerry Siegel, artist Jack Bromley.
Yeah, I did not update that. That should be, I think it's the same.
Paul Cassidy?
Let me go look.
I thought the art looked like Cassidy's when I think it is. Let me just go verify real quick. I'm going to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, which is a wonderful website, mikesamazingworld.com. Mike passed away recently, which was very sad, but his website lives on and it has a lot of great information. Jerry Siegel and Paul Cassidy. Okay, I see what happened here too. This is a rehash.
Yeah.
So
I do a lot of copying and pasting, and if I forget, then
that's not a problem. All right. So today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is, and I have to say it that way, guys, for you listening, because it's Gatson. And of course, my impulse is to pronounce that Gaston.
Yeah.
Because that's just easier to do, but that's not the name. The name is Gatson.
Can I break in real quick? Cause when I attributed the comment, "Here we go, yo," to Billy D, but it was actually Doug. Doug said, "Here we go."
Okay. I got you.
So Doug, to you, can I kick it?
So today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is the second Superman story to appear in Superman number 9. And that comes to us from writer Jerry Siegel and artist Paul Cassidy. And so for those of you that don't have the book handy, here, which we haven't mentioned, but we are, or at least I am, I think Steeven is also, reading these from the Superman in the Golden Age Omnibus, I believe is the official title of the book.
Yes. And in fact, if you're listening, when you start listening to the show, you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, for example, the podcast art that will show up for the individual episodes, I've updated them to show the art from the volume in which.
Okay. Cool beans.
I think they look pretty neat.
All right. So we see that Racketeer Joe Gatson is facing trial on criminal charges. Judge Crane, who's presiding over the case, leaves the courtroom and nearly commits suicide. Superman stops him and learns that the judge's daughter, Sylvia, has been kidnapped by Gatson's men. Superman traces the men to a shack in the swamp. He rescues the girl, but the men escape to warn Gatson. The Racketeer confronts the judge at his house and waits for Superman to return with Sylvia. When he does, Gatson orders the girl killed, but Superman throws Gatson himself in the path of the bullet, killing him. Gatson's henchman is caught, and Lois Lane gets the story. So that's not a bad summation. It's not 100% accurate, even in not trying to give everything away, but it's kind of jumpy. But I do want to do this, because these semi-splash page narrations amuse me to no end. There's the word. So let me indulge me, guys, everyone listening. Let me read this one to you. Okay. First of all, we have the panel here of, well, just essentially Superman wrestling an alligator. That's what it is. Superman logo by the creators. Off here to the right-hand side, as I'm looking at it, is some palm trees and Superman wrestling a gator. And
I'll tell you what, if he didn't wrestle a gator later in the actual story, that would have pissed me off, because if nothing is going to hook you into a Superman story from panel 1, it's the idea that Superman is going to wrestle an alligator.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the narration box here, the narrator tells us, bulwark of man's civilization is his court of law, where wrongs are righted and criminals punished according to their merits. But when evildoers seek to inject their villainous methods directly into the courtroom, Superman, super strong champion of justice, steps in to teach the criminal horde respect for law and order.
That's the face you have to make listening to that.
Oh, and I see someone standing holding one of those big stand-up mics on their little stage for their radio show, speaking that into the microphone. Yep. I mean, that is just, that is very civilization. Yep. Yeah, that is very 40s radio kind of. And that from the very beginning, that's always what's gotten me is there are always aspects in these stories that I hear someone on a radio show do, whether it's the narrator or some actor saying something, some speech or I like that. Nowadays, I read stuff and I'm like, there is nobody in their right mind that would ever say that. What is that? But here, I hear a radio show a lot of times as I read these stories. Yeah. Very, very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. And I don't know when these opening panels started in these Superman and Action Comics issues, but it's been a number of issues. Mm-hmm. And I really like them because they are this, not so much as the last one. Like the last one basically was like the solicitation for the issue, to kind of give you buckle up, folks, because this is what's going to, this is what you're going to get. It was like a little trailer. And you're kind of getting this here. I like this one. I totally agree that I can see somebody in their suit and tie, standing in front of that microphone and saying this, with the thing in their ear, bulwark of man's civilization, Yep. Yeah, I can totally see that.
All right. So the story, the narrator continues and tells us Lois Lane and Clark Kent, reporters on the crusading Daily Planet. Apparently that's what the paper is being called today. Metropolis, leading newspaper, hurry toward criminal court. And that's where the art picks up. They're in the court here. We see that they are, I believe they have a meeting. Well, I think first I thought they were in the courtroom, it looks like.
Yeah, I think they're just there to cover the trial, aren't they? And then the judge is late.
So they, he finally comes in and he rushes through everything. So automatically Lois and Clark, see that is different. But then the demeanor of the judge, Clark in particular, takes notice of that. And that triggers the newspaper, news hound sniffing story kind of aspect of Clark. Yep. He and Lois stand up and they're going to go pursue the judge because the judge just comes in, rushes through the proceedings and then rushes out. And they're going to get up and see if they can have a word with him real quick. But somebody rushes into the guy that the hearing was about, who we find out is, it is Gatson. Yeah. That is the dude whose name Joe, I think they kept telling us. Joe Gatson. He's some ne'er-do-well and he's in the court. He sees Clark and Lois. And as they are attempting to exit, he confronts Clark, because Clark has been, just insulting. I thought he had some kind of crack about, making all those smart cracks about me. Yeah. And even Lois warned him. She's like, Gatson, he notices you're here. I wonder if he's going to say anything about the articles you've been doing about him. And
according to Clark, he called him a beetle-browed moron in one of the articles.
That's pretty harsh words.
Yeah, and we not only get an A, we get a C, because he goes, "You're Clark Kent, A." And then when he pushes him in the face, which is a callback, I feel, to Action Comics #1, where the gangster threatens to push Clark's face in. He pushes him in the face and he says, "Well, you'd better lock that typewriter of yours, see?" Which is how gangsters talk back then.
Absolutely, all the time, yeah. Not sure what kind of accent he had, but he had an accent when he said that. There's one of several accents.
Yeah, it's 40s gangster. It's, "So you're Clark Kent, eh? You better stop saying these things about me, see? Or I'm going to take you down, see? I'm going to fill your belly full of lead, see?"
Who is that? Jimmy Cagney that did that in the movies? Yeah. So Doug tells us here that the criminal hordes really need to respect law and order. Well, according to the first narration here in the story, absolutely, there's a sore lack of that kind of respect in 1941.
But if you're a criminal horde, your job description is not to respect law and order. That's really what you're out to do. That's your goal, to not respect it. So, they wouldn't be doing their jobs.
Kind of in the description. If you're going to be one of them, then this is how you have to act. So, once again, Lois belittles Clark about not doing anything, not protecting himself, not fighting back, not doing anything, letting this thug shove him in the face.
Yeah. And she stands off to the side as he's doing it. And she says, "Hit him, Clark," which I love that she wants to see them just fisticuffs.
She's very bloodthirsty, and she wants to be excited by Clark because he fights back. She is desperate for that, but she never gets that up to this point, never gets that from him. But that's the way it's like there is one thing on her list left in order for her to be a Clark convert, and that's to see him fight back. Yep. And that'll cinch everything. He has everything else, but this one attribute, and she cannot get him to do that. Yeah. So it stays that there's this one hang up I have about Clark Kent. And it keeps going and keeps going.
And I'm fairly certain that is not the first time we've seen her say that. "Hit him, Clark."
Oh yeah, no. Which is another one of the things we could have been keeping track on if we had thought about it. It comes up every 2 or 3 stories.
It's like she's super excited about the idea of Clark just fighting back. And then when he doesn't, that's when she's like, "I can stand just so much of your cowardice and no more." And then she leaves.
That's it. All he has to do to finally win her over is punch somebody in the face. Lois is his forever. It's that's all. Okay. So, Clark, continues his worrying and his wanting to find out what's going on with the judge. So he rushes into a restroom and changes to Superman, climbs up the side of the building. I guess the judge's chambers. Yeah. It almost looks like they're in a different building or something like that is the way I think. But if not, then he has changed. He's gone outside of that same building and he's scaling the building. Number one, hanging on the eave, looking in the judge's chambers.
Finally.
Now that's the first one. Yeah, we haven't had one in, since our comeback, we haven't had one. We finished up the last round with, several.
So it feels like it's been over a year since we've seen him do this.
Yeah, it feels exactly like that. Yeah.
But yep. I love the narration of him climbing up the side of the building, stepping through the windows. Superman swarms up the side of the courthouse like a startled anthropoid.
Anthropoid. Like a monkey? I mean, is that what they're trying to say? Like a startled monkey, but you can't say monkey. So he says anthropoid.
I guess. I'm going to have to look up what anthropoid is.
The kids in 1941 were just so much smarter than kids their age are now, I think, because Yeah, in this kind of book, nowadays, I don't think they're going to drop the word anthropoid.
The Superman Super Show will return after these messages.
Remember the magic of Saturday mornings? A time when waking up early wasn't a chore, it was an adventure. Those hours were sacred, a weekly ritual that pulled us into worlds of animated heroes, villains, and endless possibilities. Hey folks, I'm Steven, and I want to welcome you to my new podcast, Growing Up Geek, a temporal odyssey through the geek-centric cultural zeitgeist of my youth. From the 70s through the 80s and on into the 90s, we'll explore the movies, the music, the books, the comics, and the TV shows that shaped my childhood and made me, well, me. In our first season, we're diving into the golden age of Saturday morning cartoons, the history, the magic, and the cultural impact these shows had on a generation. So grab your cereal, settle in, and let's relive those iconic Saturday mornings together. Whether you're a lifelong geek who lived for those Saturday morning lineups, or someone curious about the cartoons that defined a generation, Growing Up Geek is the show for you. So subscribe now to make sure that you don't miss a minute of the fun, nostalgia, and stories that defined our weekends. You know, when we were growing up geek.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And now, back to the Superman Super Show.
So, he is, so did you find it?
Well, there's a film called Anthropoid, and I can't get past that.
Oh, no, yeah, no, anthropoid's a word,
So
definitely.
Definition.
Yeah, I definitely have run across the word before, but I don't.
Resembling a human being in form. Cartoons of anthropoid frogs.
Yeah, see, I would say that what they're trying to allude to is he's scaling the building like a monkey.
Yeah. Another definition is any of a suborder of higher primates. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So looking in, he sees that the judge has taken out a pistol. He's loaded it, clicked it. They even make a notation that you almost feel like he has checked the chamber and then he's flicked it to close the chamber, raises it to his head, and he's about to pull the trigger, in essence, killing himself. Superman rushes in. I'm surprised, Judge, a man of your caliber stooping to suicide. Why did you do it? And here we find out the crux of the story is going to be this. My daughter Sylvia kidnapped. I've been instructed to either free Gatson or I'd never see her again. We've never heard that story before, right?
Yeah, but it's like this got dark real quick.
Starting with the judge not knowing anything else to do, but he's going to kill himself.
It's like today on a very special episode of Superman.
So they talk back and forth a little bit, find out that he's got a couple days before he has to free Gatson. They've given him kind of a time limit. And then as they're there, the judge receives another phone call that is, let's see, what is it? Get this, which is kind of akin to your get this. Definitely release Gatson tomorrow or we'll kill your daughter. Now, as far as the phone call, this is a clue that at first you think is just thrown in, but it does play a part with the way that they write the story moving forward. The image, the panel before the judge actually taking the call is an operator. And we see the sign that the operator must work for the municipal criminal district because that's on a sign in the back. And it is, I believe it's a female operator. It doesn't really matter the gender. The figure looks kind of weird to me. Judge Crane speaking. This is a long distance, or the question, Judge Crane speaking, because it's from their point of view. this is a long distance call from Lakeland. And then we switch over the panel to the judge actually talking on the call. So that, again, it seems innocuous, but it will play a part with the way that the story goes later on.
That I found that confusing until I really, started to think about how the whole operator switchboard things works. So I'm assuming the call comes in, the switchboard operator here at the municipal court building answers it. She rings the judge and says, "Hey, is this the judge? I've got a long distance call for you." Mm-hmm. And so then when we get to that second panel, she's pulled one of those plugs and moved it around. And now he's actually speaking to the kidnappers. Because the first time I read it, I thought, whoever this person is, that's the one that's like, get this. I thought.
Right. Yeah. This person here. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess they didn't have routing like we do now. So it all comes into a central place back then. And that's why you have all the cords. You actually make a connection to whatever phone it is in the building. So
and
you get the call and then you route it.
The house that I'm living in right now used to be the switchboard for the town. So where I'm sitting, there used to be one of those. And my great grandmother was the one sitting there.
Did you find any equipment or anything when you first moved in?
No, it's actually down in our town museum.
Cool. So, so it got moved out before you moved into the house? Yeah. It had already? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's
after, because my great grandma lived here. She was a switchboard operator. And so this house was owned by the phone company. But then when they stopped using a switchboard, she just bought the house.
Oh, okay. So she was the equivalent of Mayberry's Sarah.
Exactly.
Right. I got you.
People would, I need Klondike 657, please.
Yep. Plug it into whichever of the. Yeah. Okay. Cool beans. Okay. So now there is one thing here coming up that totally confused me. I don't understand what the point was, but the judge takes the call and then he gets the final warning, and he and Soups here have their final conversation about what is needed as far as Gatson and the judge and the judge's daughter and Superman. Superman leaves to enact his plan, and after he has left, the weapon accidentally fires. That's what the narrator tells us, and the panel is of the weapon in the dude's hand. As Superman springs away, a crowd spills into the room led by the bailiff. "Are you all right, Judge Crane?" "Quite all right, bailiff. The gun went off accidentally."
Yeah. I was waiting for that to come back at some point. It never does.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean,
it's like we need to fill 2 panels here. What can we do?
That was just weird. We see Superman in the next panel doing something. I don't know
he's running across.
He's running on the phone lines. Is that?
Yeah. That's okay. And that confused me at first too, because he's running along either power lines or phone lines, and he's saying now to trace that long distance call to its source. So I thought, are we going to get a new superpower? Is he going to be able to hear or follow like the residual energy from the call?
He's following the line. Yeah. Where does the line go?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes, I'm afraid it doesn't. Even back then, it doesn't work that way. But okay. So next, shortly after Superman clambers. Okay. Up the side of the telephone building. So he has traced the phone lines to the phone building. And then he just picks a ledge to hang on to see, and it turns out to be an engineer. I don't necessarily know why this particular dude, but we have the second hanging on a ledge here as he looks in on a phone engineer, opens the window, climbs in, says, "Don't be alarmed. I just want to ask you a few questions." Well, somebody climbing up the side of my building, coming into my window, my street side window from outside is going to scare the poo out of me. I mean, it's not a common thing that I'm going to run into in 1941. Yeah. So we've already put together that most people don't even know that Superman exists, apparently. So you wouldn't, there's nothing that you would expect to see that. Yeah. It's like, that's totally weird. And then he comes in and he's dressed in this, bright blue and red outfit with the shield and all that.
But he does recognize Superman, but it's not until Superman gets into the room and sits down next to him at the desk.
Right. Now that I can focus, I see, it's Superman. Nothing else told him it was Superman until he sat down and had a chance to, really look at him and see. And the Kryptonian symbol for hope there must have been what the key was that put him over the edge. So he talks to the engineer and asks the engineer. The engineer is knowledgeable about phones and the way routing occurs. And so Superman is trying to get a clue as to how I can track down this phone call. So the engineer does some checking around. He says the call came from San Colombo, which is not what really the judge thought. And that one panel, it's not what we were led to believe either, because until you take a second and realize that was an operator, which that's not necessarily clear, you think it came from that person who is in the same building as the judge because the sign on the wall. But now we're finding out, no, it came from San Colombo to this person. This person must have been an operator, routed it to the judge. So now Soups is like, okay, well, then I need to go to San Colombo somehow and try to figure out in the next 24 hours, because that's now how much time the judge has, to find the daughter and stop this and do whatever, save the daughter, basically, because the judge is not going to let this dude go, even though he even tried to kill himself. But later, when the Man of Steel returns to the Daily Planet, his identity is Clark Kent.
But the engineer calls the operator in San Colombo at this point. And the operator in San Colombo tells him that they did not put any calls through to Metropolis. And so then
that's right. Okay.
The guy's like, well, I don't know how to explain it. It came from San Colombo and yet it didn't at the same time. And Superman's like, I can't answer that, and jumps out the window.
and that's the panel. It looks like he is falling out of the window. He just, he's not going feet first so that he can land. No, he just dove out the window and we see him just falling. Yeah. So he and Lois are talking. He's, bouncing some ideas off of Lois, and she tells him that, something strange has happened because Sylvia Crane, who is the judge's daughter, was to be the guest of honor at a luncheon today, and she didn't show. So now people are starting to realize that something's up with the daughter because she's not meeting her obligations, her social obligations. I'll give you credit for one thing, Lois, an active imagination, but that's all you're doing. Imagining things, he says. It's like, I can't imagine that she imagined that the girl wasn't there. Yeah. Either she was or she wasn't.
Yeah, but it's like he can't let her know that he knows she's been kidnapped.
And anything is going on. So hanging out there in the office, he happens to look outside and he sees a lineman messing with the phone circuit.
Is it a lineman for the county? It's a song reference. I just can't remember what song. He was a lineman for the county. I don't know. I can't remember what song.
I don't know if I know that
country
song.
I think.
So it gives him an idea to help. He's starting to put things together now about switching in the calls, and they're coming from somewhere but not coming from somewhere. And so he sees the lineman, and I think it gives him an idea about how maybe they were able to do this call without it actually coming from the place it supposedly came from. So he switches to Superman, and using his X-ray vision, he traces the cable underground now. So instead of running along the lines on the poles, he's tracing it with his vision underground, looking for a place where it could have been potentially cut or broken to give someone access to the lines. And he knows that, well, underground, that's not really going to happen because it's in lead pipe or it's in metal pipe, whatever. So it's not easy to do there. So I need to trace the line to somewhere where it comes out of underground and it's above ground to give someone potentially easier access to it. So he's zipping along and he finds a cable box attached to a pole and sees that the cable box has been messed with, the phone box, phone cable. And as he starts to investigate, he hears somebody coming. So he hides, and somebody comes up and notices that the door has been messed with, which is the door Superman was just at. And the guy opens and reaches in, and I don't think that this is necessarily how it worked. There would be a box with an actual open phone receiver attached to it. But the guy opens the box and picks up the receiver and says, "Judge Crane, this is your last warning. Either set Gatson free tomorrow morning or you get your daughter's body in the afternoon. still, the story overall is still staying pretty dark. We've had a little bit of lightness meeting with Lois and meeting with the engineer, but I mean, we're staying with that. Well, here's a judge. His daughter's kidnapped. It's so bad he tried to kill himself. They say they're going to kill the girl, and they keep pushing that, which I understand that's the story. But after the story we just saw beforehand, which even though it had to do with foreign agents of a foreign power, it was more intense action kind of thing. Whereas this is a darker mystery kind of feel to it. What a lucky break, Superman thinks. My hunch was correct, and these men are directly involved in the kidnapping. So now he has a lead he can definitely work with. He's going to follow the dude. The dude just came up and made a threat to the judge, so obviously he's involved. Superman's going to follow the dude. Does it tell us where? Later, Superman soars over a swamp. So he traces the line to the edge of a swamp, and that's where it pops up from underground. Around the swamp, I would think even more so you want to run it underground rather than running it above ground in the swamp. But, so that's where it is. As he's tracking the dude, he sees they jump into a boat, maybe some kind of swamp buggy, and they're going to go somewhere in the swamp, and that's where their hideout is. So as Superman tries to follow him, first he succumbs to quicksand, and then as he is trying to get out of quicksand, he is noticed by and attacked by an alligator. So here, 3 panels are the scene of Superman wrestling an alligator.
A purple alligator.
Mine is kind of a reddish, brownish kind of color.
Yeah, I'm colorblind when it comes to reds and greens.
Brown.
So yeah.
So okay, yeah. So a reddish brown might look kind of purplish to you.
Yeah, because it looks straight up like a grape.
Oh, okay.
Grape crocodile, grape alligator.
Hey, we can go with that. The purple alligator. I mean, if they can make a cartoon about a great grape ape, why can't they have a grape alligator? It's 3 panels. Superman stuck in the quicksand, the alligator, mouth agape, approaching him. Second panel, he grabs up the alligator and they're kind of wrestling. It's drawn like they're wrestling in a lake, but we have to keep in mind that he's in quicksand. Although nothing really looks like quicksand. It always looks like he's just in standing water, but it's quicksand. So we're told, wrestle. A quick flip of his wrists and the huge creature goes sailing aloft. So he flings the alligator, and that's what the panel is. You see him flinging the alligator and the alligator flying through the air away from him.
Poor alligator. I mean, the alligator's not going to hurt Superman. There was no reason for him to throw. I mean, alligators freak me out. I have a fear of alligators and crocodiles. I never want to meet one, without a big fence between us. But the alligator was not going to hurt him. If anything, it was just being a nuisance while he was trying to get free. So I can only hope that the alligator landed safely in another body of water further down the swamp. And then he was just like, well, all right, I guess I will go find something else to eat, and swam away.
Yeah. Hopefully he didn't end up as a bag and a pair of shoes and a
hit
belt.
The ground as a bag and
all those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrific effort. Then Superman leaps free of the quicksand's grip. Now to continue the chase. So he hops off.
You had said that this story so far has been it's more been kind of a suspense mystery. And so this is all right, we gotta get some action in here real quick. So he's in a swamp.
We gotta do something.
2 things that are going to happen to a guy in a swamp. He's going to get stuck in some quicksand, and he's going to encounter an alligator. So let's just do both in the span of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels.
Yeah. 1 page, basically. Yeah. He sees the guys, tries to follow up, falls prey to quicksand, falls prey to the alligator. He has to take care of both.
Yeah.
He has to survive both, in essence. And
with
all
just
of this
a flick
on
of
just
the
1
wrist.
page.
He's like, oh, I'm stuck in quicksand. Well, I can get out. I'm Superman. Oh, it's it's an alligator. The alligator is now in the air. So now I can continue on with my chase.
And this is something, if he jumps, if that's the way he propels himself, how does he jump out of quicksand? Because theoretically, there isn't an immediate bottom for him to launch it, unless he goes completely under and then jumps.
While Superman cannot fly, he is able to grab particles of the air and pull himself aloft.
Climb.
He causes little bits of air around him to become so dense that he can use them as a launching pad.
He does locate the men, which, who knows? I guess all of this is just very, very short order. So really, he might not even have lost sight of the men, but they were far enough away that all of this struggle and commotion they didn't hear.
No,
because they don't know that they're being followed.
You would hear I keep saying crocodile, but you would hear an alligator flying through the air,
splashing and doing So obviously, also, I guess when he threw the alligator, he threw it in the opposite direction of the men.
Didn't land
because they would have heard it land. Yeah. So
like, holy crap, an alligator just fell out of the sky.
Out of the sky. Now, see, that would have been shoes and belt and a bag and all that in the boat there. Yeah. Locates the men. They go to a shack. He goes up to a shack and using his X-ray vision, which they don't tell us, but actually they just draw it. So I kind of like that because in the previous story, every time they told us using the X-ray, using microscope, and it's like here he's standing. You have wall of shack and you have beams and a targety place on the shack. I do know, I remember in a previous story, they even went so far as to not draw the wall. And there was like a hole in the wall that he was looking through kind of. So that was cool. But here, you see him using his power rather than being told he's using it. I'm always a fan of that. Don't tell me, show me.
That's what, anytime anybody is telling you how to write, one of the things they always say is show, don't tell.
Right. Unless, of course, you're Chris Claremont and then you have to tell everything.
Sometimes you have to tell.
Sometimes, yeah. So now we switch inside and we see that Sylvia, she's getting a little mouthy with the bad guys. She's kind of peppery, kind of fiery here, even though, she may not know where she is. If she were to escape, she may not know how to get out, where to go or anything. But still, I don't appreciate it. And I'm going to talk some smack. And so that's what she does. And even to the extent that one of the dudes jumped up and he's going to sock her in the jaw, but Superman breaks through the wall and distracts him before he can do that. So, I think it's kind of funny that she, can push a tough far enough that he's going to hit her, which I would think is not an easy thing to do because they've been here with her for, I don't know, a day or 2 days or whatever. And it's like, well, she hasn't pushed him that far yet, but this is too far. What does she say? I'll remember your faces. So he's going to knock her out so she doesn't remember their faces.
It's what he says.
So,
and that's Superman. He says, that's my clue. But really he's saying, oh, hell no.
You're not going to hit her. Jumps in. The one bad guy draws a pistol and shoots him. The other bad guy draws his also in the next panel, and we have multiple shots. Superman runs up and grabs the gun. Okay. A couple things happen here back to back. They don't know who this is either. They never drop his name. So he runs in. They realize that their bullets aren't doing anything to him. But then he takes the guns and he throws them clear through the wall of the shack. And that impresses them.
Yep.
They didn't cotton into that the bullets are bouncing off of him. They say, oh, you're wearing a bulletproof vest, which is something that was said in the previous story too. So that's explainable. You must be wearing a bulletproof vest. That's why the bullets aren't doing it. But being able to throw those guns completely through the wall now, that's weird.
Yeah.
And that's what gets their attention. Now let's see if you're as thick-skulled as I think you are, as he rushes up to the one bad guy who now doesn't have a gun. So he draws a knife. Second story in a row where we've seen guns not work and the bad guys grab knives. So I guess all bad guys in 1941 carry both guns and knives.
I would.
If one doesn't work, they resort to the other.
Yeah, and it makes sense here because my first thought was you just shot the man and you watch the bullets bounce off of him why are you going to try your knife? But they point out that the guy tries to plunge the knife into Superman's side. So if they truly think he's wearing a bulletproof vest, that's where you would go with the knife. So yeah, it all makes it makes sense. I think they did a good job there.
The side or the back, yeah. As the kidnapper plunges the knife against the Man of Steel's side, it breaks with a sharp tinkle. Maybe they could have picked a better word. Right. I don't know, but tinkle. Okay.
Tinkle.
That's what the narrator tells us. And we see the bad guy looking at his hand, presumably at the knife, and says, it broke. Superman says, let that be a lesson to you. And the other guy's, I'm getting out of here. And he tries to jump through the window, and Superman grabs him. The dude is holding onto the window frame, and as Superman pulls him back in, it rips the frame completely off the wall. So the guy is holding the frame there in his hand.
Guy's suit is almost the same color as the wall.
Yes. Yep. They almost blend in there. Seizing the two, Superman binds them together back to back with a clothes rack, which struck me as weird because it's clothesline is what I see. But clothes rack. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the clothes rack had a different meaning then than what I assume it does now. But he ties them up with what looks like rope or wire.
Yeah.
The Superman Super Show will return after these messages. And now, back to the Superman Super Show.
Maybe, like the Marvel method where the artist draws out the pages and then the guy comes back in and does the script. Maybe he was like, where did the rope come from? Oh, it's a clothesline, but he didn't know. I don't know. He wrote clothes rack.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So he ties the two bad guys up, grabs up the girl, rescues her, unties her, jumps off doing the carrying her like he does Lois. He has a couple times. Don't put me down. This is the girl, and Superman responds, quiet. You won't be harmed. And he thinks, I'll give Lois credit for one thing. These breathtaking leaps never drove her to hysterics.
That's right. Lois is a strong woman.
He looks at her in his arms and says, she's fainted. It's just as well. The poor girl has been under a terrible strain. So now her behavior is explainable. Before she was going into hysterics. Yep. So, cut back to the two guys, and they're fussing and fighting. They got to try to break loose to warn the boss because, they still don't say Superman, do they? No. Somebody rescued the girl, and took her, and they're presuming that they're going to take the girl back to the judge. So the two thugs have to tell the boss that somebody took the girl and is going back to give him the heads up.
And he wasn't.
So he calls him. We don't know if he called with the box or if he called with the whatever. Here he's just on the phone calling. Looks like he's calling from a tree.
It does.
Actually, if you ask me, it looks like a tree. But
he's using the professor's coconut phone.
Yes. I can hear the song. Back in a day. Yeah. So he gets in touch with the boss, and the boss is like, oh, so she's gone, huh? Jumps in his car, and you can tell he is definitely in a hurry because of the way the car is drawn.
Oh, yeah.
The car is drawn taking a curve, maybe on one tire.
Oh,
but you could make an argument for there are no tires on the ground where he makes this turn.
Yeah, it could be one, it could be two, it could be none.
Yeah.
But what does he say in the panel before he jumps into the car?
So the crane girl escaped.
Hey?
Yep. That's the thugs. That's the way they all talk, man.
I think
with that extra syllable.
I think that's two A's in this story and two of them in the previous
one. And a C in this story.
C. I really am going to have to start making it. That's going to be my hanging from a ledge.
Okay. And to catch up, you can only catch up starting with our comeback.
Yeah.
And just do last episode in this one.
Yep.
So he's the bad guy. Did we ever get in? Yeah. What's his name? Joe
Gatson. That's the title of the story. Joe Gatson Racketeer.
Gatso.
Terrible name for a story.
Yeah. Well, So Gatson is speeding to, presumably the judges. Does he say? He talks to the guy here. So the Crane gal escaped, eh? So I guess you presume he's going to Judge Crane's office. We have actually, no, he's not going to Judge Crane's office. And we find that out here shortly. Judge Crane has gotten a police escort home, because of everything that's going on. I don't think he told the officer what is going on, just that, hey, can you, come home with me for a minute? So he goes home and he's here in the house with the police officer, and Gatson breaks in, pulls a gun, threatens him. But then you see the officer, Gatson doesn't say anything, but the officer pulls a gun on the judge, and we find out that he's been working for Gatson for years. That's according to the police officer. So this is just some schmo that he thought he could trust, and it turns out that actually this dude is on Gatson's payroll.
What a jerk.
So now Gatson and this police officer are holding the judge at gunpoint at the judge's house. Lois shows up wanting to speak to the judge, as a follow-up probably to all of that at the beginning of the story, where she too was kind of weirded out by the way that the judge was acting. So we have seen what Clark was doing in following up on that, and now we see what Lois is doing following up from earlier in the day on the judge's behavior. So she shows up at his house. So now the judge and Lois are being held at gunpoint by the officer, and Gatson is there. I'm sorry, Gatson hasn't pulled a gun yet. He told the officer to handle it. You watch him. And actually, he says, you watch him. I'm going to hide here in this closet until the girl returns. And when she does, if any of you leave out a warning, peep.
That's
If any of you leave out a warning peep. Yeah, leave out. That's strange verbiage.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's saying, you better warn them. If you leave out a warning peep, but he's obviously telling them not to warn him.
Don't warn the girl. Yeah. So now Superman shows up with the daughter. The police officer holds Superman at gunpoint. Now, the Gatson jumps out of the closet. Looks like he's going to grab Superman. But it's not drawn that he does. But he leaps out right behind Superman. Superman's holding the girl. Gatson tells the police officer to shoot the girl, but when he tells the officer that, Superman has put the girl down somewhere. He's not holding her anymore. So he's shooting, the police officer shooting over there somewhere, wherever the girl is. And from the time that he tells the police officer to shoot, we see the officer shoot, but Superman grabs Gatson, who is behind him, flings Gatson so that he is between the police officer and the girl, so that the bullet the police officer fired ultimately hits Gatson instead of the girl. So Superman throws Gatson as a shield to prevent the bullet from hitting the girl, but then Gatson is flying through the air and hits the officer.
Yeah, that was the weird part. This is probably this might be my favorite moment in these Superman stories so far, going back to Action Comics #1. The fact that Superman threw the bad guy into the path of a bullet, that's just amazing. That he would even do that. It makes sense. I just kind of assumed he'd knock the guy out of the way and then run into the path of the bullet. But no, he's like, I'm going to take out literally two birds with one stone.
Yep.
I'm going to save the girl and kill the bad guy at the same time. And yet somehow the bad guy bounces off the chair and flies at the
I don't know.
I just don't get that part. That confused me.
I would almost want two things. First, my rudimentary knowledge of physics. I don't believe there's any way this dude would have survived being flung fast enough to be able to intercept the bullet.
Yeah,
he'd have been mush inside.
So regardless if the bullet was there or not, as soon as he left Superman's hand, he was dead.
Yeah, so I guess in my mind, what happened is it's almost like Superman grabbed him by like maybe the collar, which is possible from this one panel, and then like flung him, still holding on, even though we don't see him here, holding on to the dude, flung him like a shield and then continuing that motion, flung him at the policeman. I mean, there's just, The panel, though, is drawn. The girl has fallen over a chair so that you can only see her legs. So I'm not sure the bullet would have hit her anyways, but we will say that the bullet would have hit her, would have killed her. Superman flung Gatson in front of the girl. We see the chair with legs over the side of the chair. And I'm doing motions for those of you listening to the podcast. You can't see the motions, but those people that are watching live are getting the full effect of my little hand, like a kangaroo or, anyways. So we see Gatson be shot by the bullet and he yells, or whatever that's supposed to be. I guess the fling. I don't know. But we have the pistol. You can kind of see a bullet flight. It's easy to assume that Gatson was hit by the bullet in that panel. Okay. There's no Superman. The only indication of who fired the gun is the pistol being held panel forward. Next panel, though, the bailiff is struck unconscious by Gatson's hurtling body, is what the narrator tells us. In that panel, an upright police officer is thrown by a Gatson flying through the air horizontally, dislodging the gun, presumably knocking him down. Next panel. Here you are. Telephone the police, but keep the bailiff covered as he tosses Lois a gun. We see a chair in the background. Perhaps that's the chair that the girl is in. We don't know because we don't see limbs or anything. So now maybe this is a completely different angle of the room. Don't know. Superman jumps out the window. So, it starts making sense. He grabs Gatson, swings him over the head. So the gangster receives the bullet meant for Sylvia Crane. So those are the two narrations. So he picked up Gatson from behind him, reached behind, whatever, got him, threw him as a shield in front of the girl. Gatson took the bullet. Okay, that would be the end of it. But no, the next panel is Gatson flying through the air, hitting the officer that shot trying to kill the girl. How he did that, I don't know.
I may have pieced it together. I'll see if this one's a no prize or not. We go back to the previous page. We see Superman. It looks like he's got one knee up on that chair. And he's holding the girl. And I'm assuming that he's placing her into the chair at this point. And so then we have to assume that the closet is directly behind him. And so that's when the door to the closet opens and Gatson is there behind him and he tells the guy to shoot the girl. And so the guy is standing behind so the guy with the gun is standing behind the chair. Superman's standing in front of the chair. The guy is basically aiming down, I guess, to shoot her in the chair.
Oh,
Superman throws
I think I see.
Gatson. So he just throws him forward. He throws him toward the gunman. The bullet hits him. He continues to fly forward and he hits the gunman.
I can see that. Yeah. If it's Superman and Gatson on the other side of the chair and police officer firing.
Yeah.
I could see Superman throwing towards the police officer essentially and in such a manner that Gatson takes the bullet and then his body continues from being flung by Superman into the police officer. Okay. I could see that now that,
And I want to point out the closet because I notice the dumbest things sometimes in these books. I love that the closet, except for like a set of drawers, a dresser drawer or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only are there no clothes hanging in the closet, there's like one lone clothes hanger with nothing on it. Just for some reason that makes me laugh. It makes me laugh inside.
Well, and the clothes hanger is important enough that we see it in two panels when we see the closet. So they definitely want us to know that it's a closet. Yeah. And the way to do that is by drawing a hanger.
Right.
That way we know. So
and then the way he launches himself out the window, it on the one hand, it looks like he's just diving headfirst out the window. On the other hand, it looks like he reached out and he grabbed the windowsill while he was jumping and launches himself out the window. By pulling himself through.
Like some kind of pommel horse move or something. Yeah. And, a lot of things, speaking for myself, a lot of things that I say will seem like I'm trying to nitpick, but I am enjoying the story and I'm enjoying what they're doing.
Yes.
And I'm pointing out things that just caught my attention. Whether they can be explained or not logically really doesn't matter to me. That's what I'm trying to do because the human brain I've worked in sciences my entire career. So logic kind of is forefront.
Well, and
yes, I know comic books are not, and so I try to match the two together as far as it'll go. And then when they don't match up, I'm fine. That's okay.
Well, and logically, Superman would have, if he could have jumped into the path of the bullet.
Oh, easily.
Clocked the guy in the chin on the way through much faster, regardless of how fast he is. He would have expended less energy and got to that bullet faster had he just leapt forward. But he knew, okay, I'm going to kill this freaking guy. Cause the fact that he takes that extra fraction of a second to reach behind him, grab the dude, lift him over his shoulder, and then throw him at the gunman, that just...
Two birds with one fling is what he did.
That's
there.
why this may win my most favorite moment. I had to go back and look at some of the other older ones because I remember some crazy, the human javelin was great.
Yes.
So well, but this, I tell you what, I was reading this morning and I'm enjoying the crap out of this story. The alligator was great. There were just certain things every once in a while I'd go, oh, all right, that's kind of fun. But when I got to this moment, I just went, okay, this just went up a level. It's so great.
To finish up the story here, after Superman left, he changed into Clark Kent, got another police officer, and came back to the judge's house to, I guess this is the judge sitting here. Is that who that's supposed to be?
It's the judge or the...
Because up here, though, the judge had a mustache and glasses and a brown suit.
That might be the bailiff that was about to shoot the girl.
Oh, that got knocked out in a blue suit. Yeah, maybe so.
Lois is covering him with the gun. And I can only assume when she says, don't bother about the yarn. So that means
she's already called in the story.
She's called in the story. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, a feather in your cap, this will be, where's the telephone? Because he's going to call it in real fast.
He's just going to go ahead and take the story from her.
Yeah. He's going to snake the story from Lois like a typical man kind of thing.
He walks in and goes, whoa, this is news. Where's the phone? I know that you are directly involved, but I'm going to go ahead and tell this story.
She says, I already called it in. It's covered. And the final panel, and you can even tell this by the way it's drawn. The first, the next to last panel, narration, whatever, in the bottom right, it says the end. And then there's another panel on the page, which is Superman speaking. And remember, a brand new Superman story appears every month in Action Comics magazine. Don't miss an issue. So they finished the story and they put in a little ad because in the book I'm reading, the next full page is the splash page for the next story from Superman 9. So if that is the way it went at the time, they squished things together a little bit here to finish the story, put in a little ad, and then go to the next story, which is you're reading Superman, but they wanted to tell you that Superman is also in Action Comics if you want to get even more.
And if we want to do a little fun preview tease here for the next 2 episodes, it looks like the title of the third Superman story is Mystery in Swayze Swamp. So another story set in a swamp, and possibly Patrick Swayze might appear. It's not spelled the same, but and then the last one is Jackson's Murder Ring, which I would assume is a group when they mean ring, not like he has a ring that he's murdering people with.
Yeah, no, I would think a group, and we probably can assume that the leader is named Jackson. Yes. If so it's his murder ring.
And I will say real quick, as I'm looking at this over here on Mike's Amazing World, I can see the cover to Superman number 9. Not a big fan of the cover. Superman bursting through like a paper wall.
It's
not.
It's very plain, and I don't know that we have noticed, I don't think we've said so if we had noticed, but there's in the book that we're reading from, you have the cover of Superman 9. I would assume, now I haven't gone out to actually look. You're looking at the actual cover on Mike's Amazing World. Yeah. So of course the comic will have a cover. You open it up and there's a full page splash page, supposedly, according to the omnibus that we're reading. You turn that splash page and then there's a half page splash for the first story.
Yeah.
And every story has that as well. So there's like the cover, and then apparently there was a full page of art, and then the story started, which I thought was different. Usually either it's ads, maybe it was an ad and they just inserted art in this volume, but it struck me as odd that there is the cover's full page, and then you open it up and there's full page, and then you turn that page and the story starts. That just struck me as odd.
So can you see that?
Yes.
So that's the art page you're talking about, right?
Yeah. It's a full page of splash here, and then the story starts on the right-hand side.
I feel like at least in these trades, I don't know, I feel like I'll have to at some point go over to the DC app and look at the individual issue. But this page seems to show up in almost every one of the Superman issues in these trades.
I don't remember noticing before. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, cool. Alrighty. I don't think there's anything else that I want to add.
No, I'll just say that I'm really happy with these first two Superman stories in Superman number 7. The two previous stories we talked about, Action Comics 33 and 34, they were fun. I enjoyed them, but these two Superman stories from Superman 9 so far they were just excellent fun. Crazy, excellent fun.
There certainly was, there's a difference in tone, or my perception of tone, between the Superman stories in Action and the Superman stories in his own book. Yeah. I don't know. It in a way, I don't know. I certainly like the way that they have felt in his book better, you, than his stories in the Action. I won't presume to try to figure out why they feel differently. It could be entirely me. I mean, I don't know, but.
And I have to admit that the final panel in the story we talked about today, with him saying, and remember, there are brand new Superman stories every month in Action Comics. And while yes, that's true, but are these not brand new stories either? Granted, they're not every month, but it's still, even if you're looking at the number of Superman stories, we got 4 Superman stories in the Superman title that come out every 2 months. So it's almost like you're getting 2, just within Superman, 2 new Superman stories per month.
Right. And if you average it out.
If he's just reminding us, if you enjoy these, of course, you should get Action Comics. It doesn't say Superman on the title, but it has a new Superman story in every issue every month. And so it just, for the first time I read that, I almost felt like they were trying to say these stories in Superman aren't new. And I thought, well, are they
new stories over there?
Yeah, it's like, are these coming from the newspaper strips? And I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't either. And maybe our Superman radio guy, if he still listens, can clue us in perhaps on that kind of stuff. But I think I don't feel that they are using the newspaper strips like they did way early on. I mean, I kind of felt,
Yeah, I agree. I think that, especially the way that the way they're put together, I suppose they could be newspaper strips, but I do think it's more that they're just saying, look, there's this comic book on the stands that it should be obvious because Superman's always on the cover.
He's on the cover.
But it doesn't say Superman. It's not like this one is Superman. So just be aware that if you're enjoying these, there are Superman stories every single month. Please keep giving us your dimes.
Basically, that's what it amounts to. Yeah. If you like paying for this one, pay for that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of giving us just one dime every 2 months, give us an extra dime every month.
Yes. Give us one dime every month. 1 here, 4 there. Yeah.
Cat wants to get up on my lap, but I'm sitting forward right now. She can't sit on my lap.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say about this this story.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. We definitely want to thank you for listening. So until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven and his his cat, excuse me. And this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye. We want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can help to boost our presence online by leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. The Superman Super Show is a presentation of Steven or Else Media. For more nerdy content just like this, check out stevenorelse.com or just use the link in your show notes. Superman is a registered trademark of DC Comics and was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
Superman's bad. I mean, he was bad.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today's actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.